Guys, welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We've got Xavier Madison with us. He's entrepreneur in residence at Turner Construction Company, which I found out is this humongous company. So today we're going to talk about the entrepreneur in residence role. We're going to talk about a bunch of interesting things. Xavier, can you say a little hello and introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Charles. I'm Xavier Madison, as Charles mentioned, entrepreneur in residence for Turner Construction. Turner is the number one general contractor by volume in the US. We specialize in public and private sector work, including government buildings, high-rise office buildings, sports arenas, and things of that nature. We're also well connected in the communities throughout the United States. So we also place a huge emphasis on giving back to the community and influencing the communities that we serve in a positive way.
What about your background? How did you ended up being an entrepreneur in residence there?
Yeah, so in my prior years in my career, I started with Turner actually in 2017, right out of college. And the first project I was placed on was in the heart of downtown Dallas, which is where I live currently. And I immediately recognized the importance of being connected in the community and networking and meeting minority, women, and veteran-owned contractors to foster more inclusion in our industry. And that led me to co-found a startup at the time to focus strategically on pairing more underrepresented companies from those backgrounds with more construction opportunities. And in 2021, Turner started this entrepreneur in residence program as a way to basically foster tech talent internally and develop a system that would allow them to build companies that can service the entire industry. So Turner has always been on kind of the cutting edge of many things in our industry, whether it's sustainability, whether it's cutting down on carbon emissions and lean practices, and technology is no different. Technology has really revamped certain areas of our industry and has allowed us to do more with less and also streamline a lot of our processes. And Turner recognized that early on and created this program as a means to bring in entrepreneurs to identify areas within our industry that can be innovated and foster new ideas to hopefully build a company that can not only service Turner, but the industry as a whole.
So what's your role exactly? Like, do you filter new startups in there? Do you come up with new ideas? Do you find potential founders?
Yeah, so my role is actually, fostering ideas. So right now we're currently in R&D phase on a few different ideas that I believe that could create a tremendous impact on our industry. So just to kind of give you an overview, initially in the program, we go through a discovery phase where we're basically looking at all aspects of the industry, from procurement to actually building the job, taking a look at some of our building practices and identifying areas that could use enhancement. And from there, once we, figure out a few different focus areas, we then take a look at, okay, is there a market for or an opportunity to create something to service this specific niche? And that's kind of the stage that I'm in right now, is, exploring a few different ideas and developing an idea around the market size and the demand for the ideas that we're exploring.
What kind of ideas are you exploring? Green tech, the $500 house. What do you have in the pipeline?
A $500 house would be great. I just saw Home Depot offers like the prefab homes now for like a couple $1,000. is pretty unique.
Wow.
But Turner, more or less, we're involved in, larger scale projects. There are opportunities for like prefab building elements. So one of the common trends in our industry right now are like the bathroom pods. You look at a hotel where there's, multiple build outs and layouts of restrooms and identical types of assemblies that can be basically prefabricated off-site and delivered to the site and installed more efficiently, cutting down on labor and minimizing the safety risk. That's one of the trends in our industry, but the exact ideas that I'm working on right now, they fall within the realm of procurement and pre-construction. Where I can't speak explicitly on what they are, but they're within those phases and identifying how we can leverage the data that we have in our industry to make better decisions when it comes to finding the right partners, trade partners, and subcontractors to do work with on our projects.
So rate that idea on a scale of 1 to 10. I just had a guy on my pod before you. He's in the energy sector and his background was skyscrapers. So I was like, instead of windows to the skyscrapers, why not replace with solar panels? Obviously, the tech would need more R&D, improve the energy generation power of these panels and make them super transparent, just like glass. And then store this energy in packs, and then you sell it to the adjacent buildings facing you, or to any real estate near yours, so that becomes an actually cash positive device right there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea. There's actually a company called View Glass that has a similar concept. Netflix actually used their product on their main headquarters. Actually, here in Dallas, our Dallas-Fort Worth airport has used their glass. And I'm not sure that it actually follows through with basically resupplying that energy to adjacent properties. But I know that they've developed a system that's similar where it's more so solar panels on the exterior. It's still glass, but it minimizes glare and it's more energy efficient. So I definitely, see the need for more products like that in our industry, especially when you look at the government's initiatives towards, helping us fight the climate change battle. Construction is one of the main contributors of CO2 emissions. And, whatever we can do to minimize our carbon footprint and our impact on the environment, I think any product or service within that space could be a great resource for our industry.
I've never been bullish on commercial real estate, and nowadays the industry is kind of suffering. People don't want to rent offices anymore, it seems, and rightfully. I think we're kind of merging life and business, and I do think people want to save up. How could we innovate there? Because there's all these skyscrapers like standing 50% empty. Should we just convert those into residential and, make massive amounts of money? Because there's still this huge bubble in consumer real estate, like me and you buying a house. There's still the American dream, and I need to have the big house and the car and the wife and so forth. So is the solution as simple as replacing commercial into residential, or are there other more innovative ideas you thought about?
Well, converting commercial to residential, that comes down to a zoning concern. So, here in a lot of states, the zoning rules and what you can build in certain areas are very strict. So I know, like here in Dallas, they just eliminated the use of Airbnb rentals in single family neighborhoods, which that creates a huge impact on people in the Airbnb space and the short-term rental industry. So I think that, the thought of converting commercial spaces over to residential that would cause some concern for me. But you never say never. I've seen a few different ideas where people are converting older commercial spaces to homeless shelters, right? Like your old abandoned department stores and malls, using those as a means to help cut down our homeless population. So there's a number of ways that we can kind of fight the battle of using existing buildings that may be underutilized and repurposing them. The commercial real estate industry, it seems to be rebounding, I would say, as a lot of companies are bringing employees back to work. And one of the ways that they're doing that is changing the design and thinking of ways to create a better office experience for their employees. I don't know about you, but during COVID, one of the things that I enjoyed is, setting up my home office. Like, I've got my dog bed right next to me. My husky lays right here, and he enjoys me being at home. And, I've got my coffee maker very close. And I think, commercial office spaces, they're realizing, hey, our employees, they like the lounge areas where they can sit on the couch and bring their laptop and be mobile, right? Maybe, they like the beanbag chair in the corner, like fostering some more of those amenities to cater to the folks that have, fallen in love with, the work from home and the leisurely workspace versus the traditional office cube, and I think as we see more of that, we'll begin to see more, innovation and repurposing of commercial office spaces in that realm.
Yeah, me on my side, I've been that way from day one. Also, as a nomad, I had the weirdest of desks. I had my time in which I was obsessed with standing desks, and I would build them with like a desk and a chair and like a microwave, and that was quite kind of funny. Next
From
question.
my construction perspective, that doesn't sound very safe.
No, it never fell though. And the standing desk still, I kind of stopped doing it because the posture, and there was some not so advantageous posture stuff there. And I realized that I can have these posture benefits just by training smart on a daily basis, stretching and so forth, without necessarily just standing my whole day. Next
Absolutely.
question. It's also an area of fascination of mine, robotics. We've seen China build stuff incredibly quickly, and I could certainly picture, my logic's somewhat flawed, but if we have an iRobot sweeping the floor, which is somewhat easy, or if let's take a better example, if we have a Boston Dynamic bot throwing the toolbox and making these jumps and so forth, I think we're somewhat near having a robot build a full skyscraper, which is somewhat very repetitive, right? It's like floor after floor after floor. Maybe there's the base that is a bit more complex, but I can see that happening definitely. So what's your take as someone that's like currently in touch and completely wired with the industry? Do you think that's still far-fetched? Is it like a regulation thing as well? How far are we from bots fully building skyscrapers?
Well, I wouldn't say anything is far-fetched in this day and age, because technology has blown me away, all the advancements that we've made. But I will say that, robots constructing a full skyscraper, there's a number of different elements that would cause for concern there. However, there are elements of the building process that robotics are already having an impact. So there's a company, I believe they're called Advanced Robotics, where they're actually helping with the layout. And what I mean by that, for those who are not in construction, whenever you build, whenever you're constructing walls inside of a building, you've got to lay out your grid lines on the actual floor to measure, where those walls are going to be placed, where they're going to be installed. And that's a manual process. I mean, you need at least 2 laborers on the job site to chalk out that line, lay it out correctly, measure it correctly. We're seeing robotics actually perform that layout. And there you've already minimized the manual labor there, not to mention the inaccuracies that could come with a manual process. Here in Texas, we're working in 100-degree heat sometimes in summer. And, that's an environmental factor that could jeopardize the quality. So if you got, robotics, they don't understand that it's 100 degrees outside. They're going to complete the task regardless. So I think adjacent elements, these small elements that contribute to the overall structure, robotics can have an immediate impact. And I think over time, the more and more we develop more technologies that are able to handle these sorts of manual labor tasks, I think we can see more and more ideas spark from there.
So let's say that we fix the human labor cost and the pain suffered by these humans. Mm-hmm. Let's say that the real estate bubble eventually pops and the prices comes back to normal. Let's say that the government understand that they need to provide affordable housing. Mm-hmm. We could have a potential $500 house there. I guess, regulation would need on point, but there's still this last problem: materials. Can this bot take the ground, anything that's available, and convert it into a solid and durable matter without having to chop down trees? Use the materials that are on site, whether we're talking about the side of a mountain, whether we're talking about an urban setting. Can we have this bot scrape all that matter, heat it, solidify it into something, and build from that current material so that the material cost almost goes to zero and we can have the $500 house?
You're pretty set on this $500 house.
I am. Yeah, I think it should be a fundamental human right? Like the government provides you energy, the government provides you water. Food, we're still not there. It's like, medicine, health is a fundamental human right. What about food? What about housing? Shelter. So I do think the gov should provide that for all of its citizens.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think the more that we can find out how to repurpose waste from adjacent industries, that can help with our supply chain challenges and finding creative ways to supplement some of the material shortages that we're experiencing. I know that there's a few different companies out there that are exploring those practices for, high volume commodities such as concrete, structural elements, things like that we can use on our job sites. None of the companies' names come to me at this time, but I wouldn't say that it's too far-fetched to say that, we can repurpose a lot of the waste materials from other industries and find a way to utilize those on construction sites to, supplement our supply chain. And ultimately that has an indirect impact on the cost of, your commercial buildings or, the cost of residential properties, and hopefully get us on the way to the $500 home dream.
The $500 house. I want to make it happen though. I think it's quite the problem. I think mentalities are gonna shift away from the American dream to own a house. It's already done in younger generations. They don't give a crap about owning a mansion. I also think we're gonna see like mad innovation in terms of housing. Airbnb is the start of it. I also think that Airbnb is at the forefront to suggest a better model for housing. It would certainly involve fintech, what I have in mind. renting out rooms. That, for example, the other day I was suggesting to build a startup incubator. You house all these founders, you take 20% of their startups, and they can be lodged and nourished for free. Right? They trade a big chunk of their company, but still. The Draper House is somewhat that. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but yeah, I would start, this, because I still see it as somewhat as a problem. And it certainly is, people are stressed mostly because of two things. When you hear people saying like, look, I have kids and I have a mortgage, that's why they're stressed. It's like these two reasons. So I think we need to fix it.
Well, I will say that Airbnb, to your point, they are pretty well positioned to bring an idea like that to the market. I will say another technology that's sort of making an impact within that space is 3D printing. Yep. So 3D printing started probably a decade ago on a very small scale. I remember, people were just using it for like prosthetic parts. Yep. But now here in Texas, we're, 3D printing one of the first residential properties. So if it can start there, I think it has the potential to be scaled to the mass market for sure.
Yeah, I'm laughing because my dogs are like barking at the water guy. But yeah, I need to take care of them. The 3D printer thing is my ideation of this little bot. It would take the matter that it would find on the ground, and from that it would actually print the walls and everything that's in the house. So thank you so much for showing up today, Xavier. I think we've got lots of value from that pod. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, the best way to get in contact with me is via LinkedIn, just Xavier Madison. That's the best way to find me. If anyone has any questions about construction or construction technology, feel free to reach out. Always open to making new connections and shedding as much light on our industry as possible. Because what I realized, Charles, outside of my industry, not a lot of people understand, the inner workings of construction. A lot of people just see the cranes in the sky and causing traffic on highways, right? But there's a number of different areas that create an impact on building the structures that we all love and enjoy. So always open to shedding light and providing insight on my industry.
Yeah, and I can definitely see cranes 3D printing skyscraper. What were you about to say?
No, I was just saying, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man.
3D printing would be insane.
Yeah. Thank you so much.